Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and arrives at episode 434, which is once again locked away in Shada. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
You guys have a good week?
Yeah, not bad.
Not too bad.
I didn't do much, but I did watch a documentary. And it's a couple years old. I didn't realize it was out there until it surfaced on Amazon. But it's Doomed, the story behind Roger Corman's Fantastic Four.
I saw it on your Letterboxd profile. How was it?
It was good. It was really interesting. They had all five of the main actors, six main actors there, the director, producer. They all talked about how it pretty much that was going to be their break for everybody, and they were all excited, and they went full bore into doing it, and then just the problems arising and the fact that they couldn't get the film out of post-production for some reason, and they were all kind of not clear on what was going on. But it was really, really interesting. I highly recommend it. I watched the movie on bootleg many years back, and I've always looked at it as like I'm glad that didn't make it to the theaters. But now I have a new appreciation for it, because of what they did, what they were trying to do. So
did they talk about Chris Columbus and his
only one? The actor, I can't remember his first name. His last name's Culp. He played Reed Richards, and he said that he kind of related the fact that Chris Columbus had wanted to do the film, and that's why Fox basically took it away. So, but he was the only one that talked about that. So, because there's no official, that's what he was purveying. So. It's good. It's an interesting movie. I would highly recommend anybody that is interested into that. I can't think of anything else I watched. I've been watching a lot of little documentaries, but nothing super exciting. Still haven't got through
Good Omens.
Good Omens. Holly said, we should watch another one tonight. So I'm going to record tonight. So, but I'm off all week, so we plan to just kind of knock it out this week. So.
Oh, nice.
We started it. Got one episode down.
So you're as far as I am.
Yep. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. Not quite as odd and funny as I was expecting, but the tone was very Pratchett. And I'm curious to see where they go. And I love the interplay back and forth between Tennant and Sheen. So, yeah, I'm ready for more of that. And I did see a very interesting thing, and I was looking for it, and I fell in love with it immediately. The escalator shot. Mm-hmm. That apparently that was an accident. That they were looking for a place that they were trying to find a building that would house Heaven. And one of the guys they were going to go tour this, and everybody else had started to go up the escalator, and he bent down to tie his shoe, and he happened to look up, and the light was coming in, reflecting off the floor, and it made it look like the escalator was doing that up and down in the reflection. And he freaked out and went, guys, come here. And everybody came running back down. And so he said they were all lying on the floor looking at this escalator reflection. And they realized it was perfect because it meant that heaven and hell were in the same building. And they didn't have to, double up on anything. And nice. It just made sense. Heaven's upstairs in the penthouse and hell's in the basement.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool. It was a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
But
nice.
Yeah, I'm excited by it.
I didn't watch anything this week.
I didn't really either. We've been playing a lot of catch up, watching some older things, but didn't make it out to the theaters. I was hoping to go see Dumbo over at the cheap theater. But
I saw that's there. I think we're going to go try and take that in this week too.
We're even behind on some of our shows. Just been too busy.
I know how that is.
We start Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tomorrow, so.
Oh, you're quite a few episodes behind.
Yeah.
Me too. I've only watched the first one, so.
I'm only one episode behind on that.
My goal is to catch up to Glenn on everything. So.
You're almost there, Sean.
You're almost there.
Almost there. All right, well, what do we have in the news, Keith?
Well, there's some rumors circulating that the actress who played Ronnie from Sarah Jane Adventures is going to appear in a Series 12 episode. I'm going to butcher her name. Anjali Mohindra had updated her online CV, Spotlight CV is what it's called, to include a role of Queen Shishka, something like that. I can't read it, the font's really small. For 2019 on Doctor Who, and it has been since removed.
Oh, really? From
her CV. So either she was fired or she wasn't supposed to post it yet.
Well, at least two sites online had caught onto that and written articles about it. So I wonder if, and that's where they cited they saw it. So I wonder if that's where maybe that's why she's pulled it, because she wasn't supposed to have it on there yet, because the BBC had not officially announced it. But I think it's educated speculation. I don't know that I would put it in the rumor category.
Yeah, it's usually pretty reliable when these sort of things pop up on the CV sites. But until the BBC announces it, we have to kind of take everything with a grain of salt.
That's right.
Just in case.
Sorry, my mother tried to call. Did not realize my phone was still on ringer. My bad.
What else?
Other news, Pluto TV has started a pop-up channel of classic Doctor Who.
I saw that. I've been watching it this week, actually.
Explain what Pluto TV is, Glenn.
So Pluto TV, and I've actually had it for a number of years. Downloaded it on my Apple TV probably a couple of years back when I discovered it. When we did cable cutting, it was one of the options we went to. Pluto TV is pretty much, it's really kind of evolved, but for all intents and purposes, it's a television app that has several different channels, probably a good 100 channels on there. Everything's commercial advertisements in between. But it is streaming channels, and for a while they were very limited. They had some sports channels on there. They had nothing really mainstream. They had a Minecraft channel, which was primarily a couple of streaming YouTubers that they got the rights to run those on there. But they've got now a sitcom channel on there that plays old classic sitcoms and things like that. They've got a horror channel. They've got it's a lot of really low budget movies or things that are really way out of date or probably are very cheap for them to obtain. But we noticed that, and they announced that Doctor Who now has its own channel, and they run it 24/7. Well, 24 hours. I don't know how long it's going to be, because I think it is a pop-up channel. I don't think it's meant to be a home there for long term, and I presume, and maybe you know more about this than I do from the articles, but I presume it's in sponsorship with BritBox, because there are a lot of advertising, or not a lot of advertising, but a little placard comes up and says BritBox. Well,
I would assume so then. This article doesn't say anything about that.
Yeah, I have a feeling it might have been a limited exclusive with BritBox, allowing them to stream those on there, because like I say, it has a little ID card that comes up every once in a while when the commercials run. The frustrating thing about it's a little like watching a YouTube channel where the ads pop up in the most inopportune places in the middle of it, and they tend to do that with, sometimes they're in a good spot, sometimes they pop up right in the most inopportune times, but yeah, it's if you're a cable cutter and you just want something that's there's no fast forward or rewind or anything on it. It's like watching broadcast television, yeah. But if you're a cable cutter and there's some fun channels on there. They've got ones that are like those. There's one that's Funny AF, which does a lot of the AFV type stuff. It's just the funny home video stuff and things like that.
It was one of the apps that I had downloaded to my Fire Stick, and I was pretty excited by. And then I lost the remote to my Fire Stick, so now it's a worthless piece of plastic that I can't access. And now Doctor Who's available on my Fire Stick, and it's like, oh, great.
Just download the remote app to your phone. Well, give me your Fire Stick. If you're not going to use your Fire Stick, I've got use for it.
That involves effort. I just want the remote.
Just download it to your...
It's not the same.
Oh, my gosh.
Do you want to use it or not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I want the remote back.
What else, Keith?
In other news, Big Finish has announced the next Time War box set will feature the War Valiard.
I saw that. Michael Jaston.
With Michael Jaston.
I shared a bathroom schedule with him.
That's coming out in August. So really soon.
It's been so long ago. Do I have to re-explain? Or we
No.
just let that one go?
No, just let it
go.
go.
Right.
If they don't understand the reference, let them wonder.
I wish I had episode references. Maybe Jamie will come across it and let us know.
Probably.
If only our search feature worked.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I didn't put Michael Jaston and bathroom schedule in the tags. Although perhaps I should have.
Well, it was your one experience at Galley, so that kind of narrows it down a little bit.
That's true. That's true.
There's certainly a target year there.
And
you could probably put Gallifrey 1 in there and at least narrow it down to all the Gallifreys.
At the very least, you could just scan all episodes in February.
Yeah.
It's true. I'm sorry. Let's talk a little bit about that. I think that's very cool and clever.
What, your bathroom schedule?
No,
I don't wanna talk about
the
that.
War Valiard. I think.
Yeah, I think
hey, why
they're doing
not?
a lot of cool
I think,
stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I really hope we get a
War
War
Doctor,
Ronnie
War Master, War
soon.
Valiard. That'll be interesting to see where they go with that.
I think they're really tapping into unrealized potential here with this Time War stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And still, I'm sure, doing it really well, so it doesn't feel like we're getting the whole story.
I hope we are.
Because it's the 8th Doctor, so, it's not the
That's
War...
true.
The
It's
War
not
Doctor.
quite.
We can't get the whole story anymore, because we don't have the...
No,
they
that's
have to do something really creative. to
Yeah,
get
but
at
now they've
least the
got
War Doctor
actors. Now
story.
they've got actors coming in and revoicing for Doctors that have passed. So I can see that being a thing for War Doctor stories.
I
I've
think
been...
they would give a bit more time.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I think they would, but I think I can see it being a viable option down the road. So
I know we discussed that at one point in time, and I kind of came down on I'm okay with people being recast in roles if they've passed on. But I'm not ready for John Hurt to be recast yet. So it's too soon for that one. The first, second, and third Doctor, I'm probably okay with those because it's been long enough. There's enough distance there. But no, not
so
that.
We got to wait.
That one's too new.
25 years before we can recast John Hurt.
Yes.
I say
I don't know what the statute of limitations is.
I say get
on that.
somebody
I'd
in there
say
now.
at least
It's been a
from-
year. Let's
At
get
least
somebody else
from
in
the
there.
point of Hartnell's death to 5 Doctors. How long was that?
15 almost?
No.
Not from departure, but death.
Yeah, probably. You're probably right.
Because he died shortly after the 3 Doctors,
Yeah,
didn't he?
right.
And that was the 10th
It
anniversary
was
special.
a few weeks, I think, after.
Died in 1975.
A few weeks.
And the 5 Doctors was 83?
No. Oh, yeah. No, that's
It was,
about right.
it was the 20th anniversary special,
it would
so
have
it
been
was 10
83.
years.
Yeah.
Less
Well,
than 10 years.
He died after the 3 Doctors, not the 5 Doctors.
Right.
Oh, you're saying from that point.
From
to
that point to
I got
So
it.
it'd
before he
8
was
years.
recast.
8-year
Yeah.
difference.
I still don't think we need to wait 8 years. We can just recast John Hurt now, as far as I'm concerned.
Or I'm sure they can tell some very creative stories without actually including the War
Or
Doctor.
do those companion chronicle type stories.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, no, that's fine. Because that's a story that's designed to not have the Doctor in it.
Right.
Or find somebody that does a good John Hurt, and then maybe.
Well, then it's the same thing. If you're gonna have somebody
different
come in
than
and Fraser Hines it, then you might as well just do a full cast audio.
Frasier's an exception to the rule, though.
No. I don't think Fraser's an exception.
Well,
to the rule.
okay, first
I'm
of
saying
all-
if you're going to have somebody come in and do a companion chronicle, but can also do a passable John Hurt and do it in the style that Fraser Hines does, then you might as well do a full cast audio and recast John Hurt's Doctor.
And as I say, with Frasier, I'd probably be okay in that instance. But Frasier is an exception to the rule because Frasier worked with his Doctor for so long. That's why he's able to do Patrick Troughton so well.
So you're
So
saying
you
if
wouldn't want a
somebody
Tim
came in
Treloar
that worked
situation?
with, you got somebody that came in that worked with John Hurt for a long time and did his voice, you'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
My God.
There's
What else is in the
There's
news?
an
What else
intimacy
is in
there
the
that
news,
changes the dynamic
Sean
of it
Keith.
as opposed to just an impersonator who's like, yeah, I sound like him.
What else is in the news?
Last bit of news. Candy Jar Books have announced the next series of Lethbridge Stewart called Bloodlines. There's going to be 5 books and then a 6th tangentially connected one.
Tangentially connected.
That's how they phrased it. Written by Gareth Madgwick, Sharon Bidwell, Andy Frankham-Allen, Chris Lynch, and Baz Greenland. And the tangentially connected one is by Robert Mamone.
Huh.
Do you want the titles?
Sure.
Home Fires Burn, The Shadow Man, and Ordinary Man. Those are the only 3 they've announced.
Oh, okay.
Now I feel left hanging.
Yeah, I gotta wait. Now you've gotta wait.
It was like he promised us.
I
You want to
know.
hear all the titles? Yes. There's only 3.
It's like when they say, "Oh, we've got titles for episode or for the next season." Oh, wait, there's only 3 here. This one's just labeled as unknown with a bunch of question marks. Is that actually the title?
Hi, sweetie.
Hi, boys.
Hi, Mel.
The first book will feature Eileen Younghusband.
Oh, very good.
So that's exciting. We'll get...
I wonder how that factors into the bloodlines. I'm being facetious, guys. Come on.
Sorry,
I know you're out of it, but
I missed it.
Keith gave me the same look. Come on, dude.
I'm tired too. That's it for news.
Where are the surprises?
What surprises?
I thought he was going to surprise us with news.
I know. I had the whole, Garfield and Friends song in my head. Surprises! And, it was this...
I didn't know what news you knew.
Oh, well.
So I said maybe.
Oh, you did say maybe. Okay.
Oh, I didn't
Depending on
hear
what
maybe.
you knew of the news.
In
of
the
week.
listeners in the pre-show setup here, we were asking about the news, and we asked if it was going to be surprises. And I guess Sean and I thought it were going to be surprises, and Keith wasn't sure they were going to be surprises.
'Cause I didn't know what you knew about.
I was led to believe there were surprises.
I knew all of that.
Did you know that there's another big finish coming up where the second Doctor's meeting the Master?
The second Doctor's meeting?
Yeah.
Now, that I did not know.
You mean the War Chief?
Why
Let me find
are
the
you
article.
telling me there's no news? There's more news, apparently, Keith.
I just remembered that bit of news.
Ah.
I just happened to scroll past it today.
Well, tell us more about that, Keith.
Hold on, I got to pull it up. I wasn't ready for
He's
it.
already met the Master.
Before he met the Master.
No. The War Chief is not the Master.
For you listeners out there, I want you to imagine that I have a giant stick, and I'm poking Glenn with it right now. Poke, 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 poke.
The War Chief is not the Master.
Could be.
Not.
Coming out in November, the Early Adventures Series 6 will feature Home Guard, where the second Doctor meets the Master.
The second Doctor?
The second Doctor meets the Master. The Master from the original Master. The not Roger Delgado.
Roger Delgado?
Wouldn't that be amazing?
How are they going to pull that off?
So the War Chief, I've already seen this.
Let me think about the Master featured in the first Doctor Adventures with David Bradley. That actor.
Okay. I got you.
And then there's also going to be
I forgot that was a thing.
yeah.
I got you.
And then the first Doctor and the second Doctors are going to meet in another adventure in the same season.
Fun.
Yeah. That's all the details that are on those. Other than it comes out in November.
Are you sure we got it all? Because they're going to drop
No.
3 or 4 more things tomorrow.
But I can't see
because
into the
we're
future.
recording tonight. And
So-
it happened again last week with the actress announcement and the Doctor Who TV. Both dropped on the day after we recorded.
Or we just do a really long podcast and wait until midnight. I'm sure we can work this stuff in. I don't suppose anybody knows, is the casting, is it going to be David Bradley coming back as the first Doctor, and is Fraser Hines going to be performing the second, or is that listed?
I believe these box sets are done in the style of Companion Chronicles.
Ah, so it could be anybody.
Yeah. It stars Peter Purves, Fraser Hines, and Wendy Padbury. So it is not David Bradley in this box set. That's, he has his own line now, so which is really good.
Good. I think we have those on the schedule at some point.
We should, because I just listened to volumes 2 and 3 over the last couple of weeks and enjoyed them.
You're so far ahead of us.
It's a little easy when there's only 2 episodes in a box set.
All right, well, we're going to forgo some feedback this week and move on to our reviews.
Shada!
Again.
And again.
And again.
I don't know about you
Does anybody
guys,
else feel like we're in a recursive time loop?
I'm a little shotted out.
I am most definitely shotted out.
That being said, I think the best version of it is the animated DVD that they released. Because I feel like this is the most complete version of the story you're ever going to have. You can't really compare it to the novelization because it's a novelization and it's always going to add more insight and depth than what you see on TV. But how they animated it feels the most complete because it doesn't feel like they drop anything out of it. They literally just animate what's missing, and they have the script and they have the cast that comes back and does a pretty good job recurring their roles. I can kind of tell, for some reason, specifically Romana, that it's not recorded at the same time frame. Like Tom, I don't notice as badly as I do with Romana's voice in it.
I wonder if that's because we haven't gotten to any Romana 2 audios as of yet, have we?
Besides the last Shada we listened to.
Besides the last Shada that we listened to, but that was done
and
much earlier.
Yeah, I don't know if we've gotten to any Romana 2 that we've done when she is reprising her time frame. So we've had Romana back, but not from when she was with the Doctor.
So I wonder if that's why, because you have listened to Tom come back, and you're kind of familiar with what Tom sounds like now, but maybe...
But I know what she sounds like now, because I've had her as President Romana in audio.
Oh, that's true. You've had Gallifrey.
Well, and just, Zagreus and the 8th Doctor stories that she appeared in.
Right, I think maybe
what
to
I'm trying
clarify
to say is when
she's older Romana in what we're listening to. So it's almost like you excuse the fact that she's an older, she has an older presence and older voice.
Right. She doesn't have to try to make
so
herself
when
sound
you hear
young again.
those, right, but when you put her back in her youth when she would have maybe had a higher range or higher tone or inflections, that's where it kind of takes you out of the story. And I agree with Keith. I think I noticed it. I don't think it bothered me so much this time, though, as it has with other actors in the past. And maybe I'm just getting used to being able to kind of suspend that being yanked out of the story because it just doesn't sound quite right. So maybe that...
And for me, it was only initially. I got used to it.
And I tell you, this will be more so when we talk about the Levine cut, because I thought she sounded more natural and younger in the Blu Ray version, or the newest release, the official 210 BBC release. I thought she sounded a lot younger in that. I don't know if maybe they did some audio tweaks in her voice than she does in what she recorded for Levine's version.
It's also possible because she has come back to Big Finish as the younger Romana 2 to do stuff with Tom. So maybe by the time she recorded the official Shada, she is a bit more comfortable trying to dip back into that younger voice than she was when she did the Ian Levine stuff.
Maybe.
More practice.
It's funny because I noticed it, but I didn't notice it initially. It wasn't until we were well into the story that she said something, and I suddenly, that was what jarred me out of it. But initially, I didn't notice any difference in it.
I think I noticed it also initially because I wasn't impressed with her initial animations. I didn't think they really looked like her. I thought Tom looked great, but initially I just wasn't overly impressed with how they drew her. I think it got a little bit better as the story went on, but it just, I don't know if it was the way they tried to light the scene, but I did not look like her enough, in my opinion.
I wasn't troubled much by any of the animation on this. I think this is the first time that we see an animation in Doctor Who that's actually inserted into the middle of episodes, because unlike the reconstructions that they've done in the past where we're just missing a whole story, you slip
an
back
episode here and an episode there.
You slip back into between the two formats in a break, after a credit scene. And so this is the first time we've seen that. And I think that they managed to do it relatively seamlessly.
They do.
Which I was very impressed by, because I was afraid that it would feel very jarring to go from the live action to the animation. But I don't know if maybe it's the cuts, and I suspect that I suspect they edited this differently than it would have been edited. And the reason I say that is because, and I'm going to go to I know jumping forward to the Levine stuff, but the Levine cut seems to be edited to maybe shooting scripts, because there's a couple of scenes that are cutting back and forth between the action, as you might have seen on TV. You'll notice that in Doctor Who episodes proper that we watch, is they will cut back and forth between two things that are happening. And the Levine cut does that. Well, it will cut back and forth. But it seems to me that, if I remember right, because I'm going based on watching this a few weeks ago, or a month ago, I guess. But it seems to me that they made some of the animation cuts so that they weren't dipping back and forth so much. It's almost like they took and maybe lifted more of that scene and put it all together so that they didn't have to bounce back and forth so much. And so I think the choice to do that was wise. And so I was quite impressed by that.
And especially doing it as a omnibus, format, or doing it all in one chunk without episode breaks,
right?
So that you weren't in the jarringness of running credits or repeating scenes or any of that, and it just kind of flowed the way that it did. I was very impressed. First of all, every time I come back to Shada, I forget how much of Shada does exist. I really am kind of shocked that as much of it was, because it's got such a history. It's got such a renowned, the lost episode of Shada, and there's this huge thing built up about it. And then you watch it and you realize, man, 70% of this was filmed. I mean, it's really mostly there. It's just the studio bits that they didn't get on the spaceship and the other things that they had to go back to. And so watching it, it was kind of like, oh yeah, all of the Chronotis stuff is here. Oh yeah, all of the Cambridge stuff is here. Oh yeah, all of the location stuff is here. Oh yeah, it's just all live action. And it almost became well, when do we get to the animation? I mean, surely there's some coming in here at some point. And then we got that first scene when they panned up into the sky and then came back down, and it was animation with Parsons on his bicycle, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
That transition was so cool. Yeah. And then they followed that up with the shot, the interior shot, which I don't know if you guys noticed. But it starts with him, on the bike coming down the lane, and then it cuts to the inside of the lab. And he comes from outside the window and goes past, and the camera turns to the door, and he's apparently putting the bike up, and then he comes through the door, and the camera moves with him as he comes over to the thing, and then it goes back over here, and then he comes and takes the book bag off and pulls the book out and sets the book on the counter, and the camera rotates around and focuses on the book. And it's all one continuous shot from the camera's point of view.
Right.
And I don't know if that's the way it was intended to be shot when they would have filmed this, had they filmed this. But I thought that was a really interesting take, because they didn't have to do that. That was obviously a very complex setup to do that in animation. But it looked fantastic the way that they did it. And pairing that right off the top with that transition, I was like, okay, you're wowing me right off the beginning, with this. So I feel like I'm in good hands.
Well, and I wonder if some of that comes down to, although there is a bulk of animation that they did have to do, but I wonder if some of that comes down to the fact that there was maybe so many fewer shots that they had to animate, that they were able to kind of take their time with a few things and kind of embellish some shots, because as you said, there is a lot, about 70% that was on film. Although I really, looking back and forth to what Levine did, I sort of wonder if maybe they left out some shots. There's a shot in the Levine cut of that they animated of Romana and K9 in the TARDIS when she goes to get the milk, and that's excised from the. So I wonder if that was part of the shooting script. But when they sat down to cut together this omnibus version, they said, "Well, we don't. That's not necessarily. She can come out and say, I've got the milk. She went in to get the milk. She comes out with the milk." So, and K9, comes out with her, and it's very obvious that she's holding the door to bring K9 out. So, so I think that they probably did cut some corners and say, well, some of this isn't necessary. So some of the stuff that's missing probably doesn't even need to be here. But honestly, I'm okay with that. Yeah, no, I'm fine with it too. I think it still tells a coherent story, and that you're losing the superficial stuff that isn't necessary. At a 6-part adventure anyway. Yeah, right. All right.
It's a little bloated of a story that can use a little bit of paring down when you can.
Mm-hmm. I fervently wish that, however this was done, because it seemed like it was computer animation done in the style of the cell-drawn animation that we've had previously.
Mm-hmm. Same company, too.
And how I wish we could go back and have them redo Reign of Terror this way. If Reign of Terror looked like this, it would fix all of my problems with Reign of Terror. I kept thinking that through the whole thing, going, oh man, why couldn't it look like this? I also think there was maybe a missed opportunity, just that if we're going to go back and do all this work, let's bring back John Leeson to redub K9 while we're
even
at
the
it.
live action scenes.
I mean,
it sounded almost like the Levine cut had Leeson.
Levine's cut did have Leeson.
Did he?
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
I mean, he's K9.
Right.
No offense to the other guy, but
even though this would have been the other guy, it obviously was the other guy.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that they didn't get Leeson back since the other actor passed, so this would have been him.
Well, I wonder who they had to do it.
I'm not sure who that was. I in my head it was it was Leeson. So.
Trying to look that up real quick.
But yeah, I every time K9 spoke, it was like, I feel Keith's pain. I can feel him from across town squirming. It's just not the same. But I was very, very, very impressed. Just across the board, I thought the crawls looked great. The bits with the sphere, just top to bottom, this was a really well done, piece, and it made me, again, with how much of it was there, because when they first announced it, I thought, that seems kind of like, in a way, a step back after doing Power of the Daleks. But with how much of it's there, it's like, it's an easy one. Yeah, we can knock this one out, and
especially now with Tom willing to come back to do the voice stuff, and since there wasn't the existing audio to work with, you kind of had to make sure you had that lined up also.
But I'm very happy that it's now out, because I feel like I own Shada now.
No, we're done. We're good.
Yeah.
We don't need any other versions of Shada.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I would still like to have the ultimate end-all, be-all Shada release with all of them put together on one set. Maybe even a 3D copy, just for good measure. But I'm good at this point.
Yeah, I'm a bit shotted out. This is one of those things that 10 years ago, I was really excited about Shada, and there was this mystery surrounding it, and there was this, the only thing that we had that existed at the time was the VHS video that they had released with Tom Baker, filling in the gaps as it is. But I was really excited when Big Finish did it and gave us another version of Shauna that we could say was complete. And then years later, they released then again on DVD the Tom Baker version that they had done for VHS. And then when who was Gareth Roberts? Gareth Roberts novelized the book, and we got a little more insight into Shada because what we had before was still a bit of the account being told to us, but when you read the book, I think you feel like you've got more of a piece of how the story goes. You feel like it fills in the missing pieces, and then I think visually seeing it with this version, the most recent release, I think that's kind of the icing on the cake of, okay, now we've done it. Now I probably won't watch Shada again for another 10 years, but no, I would certainly revisit again, but not anytime soon. And part of that is because I think we've kind of forced Shada fatigue on ourselves. I think, although we've paced this out, it's been years since we did certainly when the DVD came out. I think it's when we did the Eighth Doctor audio too. Then, right?
I think it was when the novel came out.
Was it? Well, that was even more recent then, because that was just only a few years ago.
I think we were still at the apartment when we did that.
Oh, well,
it's been a while, but
it's been a while.
It's been a while, but yeah, you're not wrong. When we did Shada, we tend to do Shada in big chunks. Mm-hmm. Let's cram as much Shada.
That was also before we knew better.
Well, yeah. And something else I was struck with this time is that I feel so very intimately attached to the front half of the story. And I don't know why. Because it's just tea drinking. There's really nothing that happens in the first
I think that's
half of
because
the story.
That's what we've seen the most of. Because when the VHS version came out, that was, in fact, having watched it, what I remembered most from it was all of the shots in Kronos' TARDIS, her apartment, and so, or study, or whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah, that's what's cemented in my mind. A lot of tea drinking,
looking for a book.
Yeah.
There's nothing happening here. And then you get to the latter half, and that's where, kind of the action is. But
we have to fill that in with descriptions. And
yeah.
The book was published 5 years ago.
Okay.
Good Lord, was it that long ago? And I was also struck this time with the Doctor's very cunning plan to use the bridge to cross over to the other TARDIS. But then he comes out behind them after they've materialized. And it's like, that seems, I don't know, counterproductive. Other than having access to your own laboratory, your own workroom. Kronos did not have one that you could have gone and looked for, and I don't know. Maybe
he wasn't as familiar with
Kronos.
He wanted to use his own.
And that was worth the let's build a temporal bridge across the schism of the time vortex to crawl. Okay, sure. I started nitpicking a little bit more this time out. What was really, really cool the first time around is now kind of like, I don't know about that. Just to walk out up behind him and go, hello, I built a helmet. Okay.
The bit at the very end that they did with Tom.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Phenomenal.
The changed ending.
Yeah.
It's not even that changed. It's them saying the same lines for the most part, and in fact, what Tom's line is the line that the story ends with. Mm-hmm. But the nod at the look at the camera and the wink and to have him as Tom at this age and actually film that live, I thought was a neat little touch.
Yeah,
I thought it was cleverly done. I think when we had read that they were doing it, or we had heard that they were doing that, I think we all kind of scratched our heads and thought, oh,
How's that gonna
how are they
work?
going to pull that off? And it does take you out of the story, but not enough that it's such a nice little nod and a wink that it's like, oh no, that actually works.
And I had forgotten about it, and so we got up to the end of the story, and then old Tom showed up, and I went, oh yeah. So it was a very wonderful surprise, because I'd completely forgotten that was going to be a thing. In a way, it kind of non-canonicals it.
Decanonizes
it. Thank you. That's a good word. Because it becomes really hard to fit back into.
Well, you just assume he fixed whatever caused it.
Yeah.
Because there was almost a fumbled bit of dialogue that implies that whatever he and K9 were doing caused that to happen.
I think that's what you're meant to be led to believe.
Okay, sure. Well, great. Now I can still make it work.
So he sticks his head back under the console, and it makes him young again.
Yeah.
They invented immortality.
Crosses his own time stream.
But for people who, including myself, as wonderful it was to see the caretaker, there was still a little, but he's not the doctor, because he's not wearing the scarf. And it's,
But here he is wearing the scarf.
And here he is.
Yeah.
And it's the right scarf. It's not that god-awful maroon one from the final season.
Right.
Right.
This
was, as you say, the icing on the cake. That was this scene. This was the end cap. So that was cool.
Let's talk a little bit about the Levine cut, because there's, other than some of the editing, and obviously Tom Baker not being the voice of,
but the guy who they got to do Tom, I think, did a passable job.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he had the inflections right, but he just wasn't quite there for me.
Close enough for me.
I had heard so much about this guy and how good he was. Maybe it was built up too much, because for all accounts that I had heard about this guy does Tom better than Tom does Tom. And I was very excited and started into it and just was like, no, I don't think he sounds anything like Tom. As you said, there were a couple of lines where he got the inflection right. Where the delivery was, okay, that sounded kind of like the way Tom would have said that.
Right, that's what I think.
But he doesn't sound like Tom. And so that was kind of that was a distraction.
Yeah, that was enough to distract me. But they put a lot of heart in the animation. And for this being animated in 2011, there's not a lot of difference in the style of animation that we got in the 2018 version.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
I think the characterizations, the way they look, are pretty spot on with their visual live action counterparts. There are some things in Young Parsons' lab that I actually sort of liked better than they did or at least animated the way.
Some of the framing shots I thought were a little better.
Well, and
the way they framed the shot.
And I think a lot of times in the 2018, although they did do some fantastic stuff like that continuous shot, but some of that stuff was very single camera, one area thing, and Levine's cuts a lot.
And some interesting.
It takes a lot of angles.
Yeah,
and so I was quite impressed by that, and it is a little. I mean, it's too bad that Levine took his product to the BBC and to Entertain and said, give me an option on this, and they didn't take it. It's a little sad because we would have got it earlier, and it was a good enough version that I think that people would have bought it and loved it and thought it was good enough. And unfortunately, it didn't come to pass. And well, fortunately, I guess I should say, because the BBC did ultimately go with
we got Tom
animation company, and we got Tom doing the voice.
It's one of those that I can go both ways on it. I think I agree. I think it's sad that they didn't jump on it. And I think I even lamented the first time we did Shada, and we talked about why. Why on earth would you not just go ahead and snap that up and say, hey, awesome. In retrospect, it totally makes sense as a company that you would not do this, because if you bought one, regardless of who it came from, if it came from Ian Levine or if it came from Morris or whoever, "Hey, we animated this for you, you're welcome," and you bought it, then all of a sudden you'd have people coming out of the woodwork. "Oh, we animated the faceless ones for you. Oh, here's Underwater Menace, we animated that." And the wide and varied quality and
then other people probably would want money for the publication of it, etc.
Yeah, and
Levine wasn't doing this out of the goodness of his heart. He wanted
He
hard
wanted a cut of
the
the
money. He was selling this to to entertain. Don't let me undersell that. He was
not that out of the goodness of
he
his heart.
sunk money into this and expected a return. It wasn't out of the goodness of his heart. And I think that would have been just perfectly fine for people to animate and come to the BBC and say, "Hey, we've done this. Do you want to purchase this?" Because the BBC has the option to say, "No, yes, we'll take that. It looks great," or "No, we'll pass on this one. It's not what we're looking for." So no, I totally disagree. I think that had the BBC optioned Levine's cut and went ahead and went with it and paid him his money, because it wasn't out of the goodness of his heart. The man's a businessman. He wants money. But had they bought that from them, produced it, put it out, then yeah, absolutely. I think that would have been great to have other animation companies maybe even come with some different ideas. I like what they're doing now. I like with the animation company that they've landed with now. It does give some consistency to the stories. It does give some consistency, but I think we might have seen some things come in that might have been better that somebody didn't think of doing, and they come in and they show us how to do it a little different. Maybe some of that, like you've both seen the Third Doctor anime that was worked on, it's what, 6 or 8 minutes or something like that, but it looks amazing in anime. It's anime style. If they did something like that and did an episode that way, or a story that way, I think maybe that would be kind of fun. Give a little bit of variety, maybe give a little bit of a different look. Some people would argue that they want, more it to be more in line with how it would have originally been presented, and we're probably sort of getting that the way that they're doing it now. But no, all the BBC has to do is say no, we don't want it. So let them crawl out of the woodwork. Let them crawl out of the woodwork.
I don't know. I fear that once you let that genie out of the bottle, you would feel obligated, or
I don't think the BBC would have
lawsuited into buying things maybe that you didn't want.
How would you get lawsuited into it?
Because you bought Levine's. Why won't you buy mine? And discrimination clause. I don't know.
I don't think you could.
I don't know. It just seems like that there's a potential for something to go wrong there. Now, to your point, however, if the BBC wanted to put together like an Animatrix style thing where we got 8 or 9 short Doctor Who stories that were all animated, even if they were original, and opened it up and did a contest and let animators donate. Cool. That would be cool. I would be totally down on that. You could have one that was an anime and one that was computer done, and one that was I'd be all over that. But I like the consistency of the product that we're getting.
Yeah.
Going back to my previous remarks about Reign of Terror. I'm a creature of habit. I like my stuff to look the same.
Well,
don't change the box art.
And I want to see what, as close to an accurate representation of what would have aired as possible.
Yeah.
It's fun to see the anime one-offs because that is an original story. That's not a story we've already had.
But who's to say that they're? I mean, I think they're trying.
They're
but
trying.
Who's to
best,
say this is what we would have, how we would have seen it? So very good.
We just gotta wait for all the episodes to be returned.
That's right, and then we'll know.
Mm-hmm. Except for Shada, it will not be returned.
Well, no, it won't be returned
because it was never filmed.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a kick? all these years we thought it was never completed, and then it turns out they were lying to us, and they did actually complete it, but they lost it. And they just didn't want to own up to it, so they blamed it on the strike. And then Morris comes along and says, guess what I found in Nigeria? And everybody goes, say what? And we'd be like,
another release?
We got to buy it again? Damn it. And I can see the box art now. At long last, the official final release of Shada.
All right, Sean, what do we got coming up on the schedule?
Well, coming up on the schedule next week, we are going to be talking some Lethbridge Stewart news. The Laughing Gnome, The Danger Men by Nick Walters. So if you haven't started, you should probably start reading that. If you want to follow along anyway. The following week, we start tackling the Diary of River Song from Big Finish with the first two parts, The Boundless Sea and I Went to a Marvelous Party. The following week, we finish the Diary of River Song Part 1 with Signs and the Rules of the Universe. And then the week after that, we're going to do some Big Finish Companion Chronicles. We're going to do a Big Finish Companion Chronicle with Frostfire, the very first one. And then Titan Comics 13th Doctor Comics, Volume 1. And officially, it's not on the schedule, but we have officially added it, at least on our end. We'll also be doing the Titan Free Comic Book Day comic on that day as well for the 13th Doctor. So if you were fortunate enough to go out to one of the Free Comic Book Day events near you and pick up a copy, we will be covering that. And if you were not fortunate enough, spoilers.
All right, very good. Well, I think that's it. Anything else we need to finish up before we close out this show?
I don't think so.
All right, that's going to do it for this time. Until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
It still isn't my chair. But thanks for listening.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.